In the neon-drenched streets of 2019 Los Angeles, a masterpiece of science fiction was born. Blade Runner captured our imaginations with its haunting vision of the future, asking the profound question, what truly makes us human? When Ridley Scott's film hit theaters in 1982, it was met with mixed reviews and disappointing box office numbers. Little did anyone know it would evolve into one of the most influential sci-fi films ever made, its visual language and philosophical depths resonating through decades of cinema. Behind this dystopian vision was a cast of extraordinary talent who brought these complex characters to life. From Harrison Ford's weary detective to Rutger Hauer's poetic replicant, these performances have etched themselves into our collective memory. The film asked us to empathize with beings deemed less than human, to question authority, and to contemplate our own mortality. Today, we look back at the remarkable actors who populated this rain-soaked, neon-lit world. Where were they when they first stepped onto those futuristic streets? Where did their careers take them afterward? And how have their portrayals in this landmark film influenced generations of filmmakers and audiences? Join us as we journey through time with the unforgettable cast of Blade Runner, examining their careers then and now. Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard. Who could forget Harrison Ford as the hard-boiled detective Rick Deckard, hunting down rogue replicants on the rain-soaked streets of Los Angeles? When Ford stepped into this iconic role, he was 40 years old, coming off massive success as Han Solo in Star Wars and Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now at 82, Ford remains one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. As Deckard, Ford gave us a character torn between duty and morality, a man who questions his own humanity while pursuing beings who seem more human than himself. His weary eyes told the story of a burnout cop reluctantly pulled back into a world he wanted to leave behind. Remember that scene where he downs whiskey while examining photos of replicants? Pure noir perfection. Before Blade Runner, Ford had already become a household name with Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but few had seen him tackle such a morally complex character. After the film, his career soared to even greater heights with more Indiana Jones adventures, The Fugitive Air Force One, and eventually returning to both Star Wars and Blade Runner decades later. What made his performance so memorable? It wasn't just the trench coat or the world-weary demeanor, it was the vulnerability beneath the tough exterior. Is Deckard himself a replicant? Ford played this ambiguity masterfully, leaving us debating the question for over 40 years. His chemistry with Sean Young created one of cinema's most complex love stories between a man who hunts replicants and a woman who discovers she is one. Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty. When Dutch actor Rutger Hauer took on the role of replicant leader Roy Batty, he was 38 years old with piercing blue eyes and platinum blonde hair that made him the perfect antagonist. Hauer sadly passed away in 2019 at age 75, but his performance as the philosophical replicant seeking more life remains his most celebrated role. As Batty, Hauer created something truly extraordinary, a villain who becomes the emotional heart of the film. His character, a combat model designed for off-world colonies, returns to Earth seeking answers from his creator and a way to extend his programmed 4-year lifespan. Who can forget that final rooftop scene where Batty saves Deckard before delivering the most poetic death monologue in sci-fi history? All those moments will be lost in time like tears in rain. Time to die. Before Blade Runner, Hauer was already established in Dutch cinema, working with director Paul Verhoeven, and had made his American debut in the terrorism thriller Nighthawks, opposite Sylvester Stallone. After his breakthrough as Batty, he enjoyed a prolific career spanning genres from the terrifying hitchhiker in The Hitcher to roles in Sin City Buffy, The Vampire Slayer, and Batman Begins. What made his performance so remarkable was how Hauer rewrote his famous final monologue, simplifying it and adding the "tears in rain" line himself. He understood that this villain needed to teach us about humanity in his final moments, making us question who the real monsters were in this dystopian world. Has any other antagonist left such a philosophical impact? Sean Young as Rachel. At just 22 years old, Sean Young portrayed the elegant and enigmatic Rachel, a replicant who doesn't know she isn't human. Now, 64 Young's performance as this sophisticated Tyrell Corporation assistant remains her most iconic role despite a career spanning decades, as Rachel Young perfectly captured the existential crisis of discovering everything you believe about yourself is a lie. With her striking 1940s-inspired appearance, severe makeup-sculpted hair, and vintage wardrobe, she became one of cinema's most visually distinctive characters. That scene where she slowly realizes her memories belong to someone else? Heartbreaking perfection as her world crumbles with each Voight-Kampff test question. Before Blade Runner, Young was relatively unknown with a small role in Jane Austen in Manhattan. After her breakthrough, she landed major roles in films like Dune: No Way Out Wall Street and comedies like Ace Ventura. Pet Detective, though her career faced challenges and controversies throughout the 1990s. What made Young's performance so unforgettable was her ability to convey Rachel's evolution from cold corporate employee to vulnerable being grappling with her identity. Her chemistry with Ford created the emotional center of the film as two characters questioning their humanity find connection in a dehumanized world. Young brought such nuance to Rachel that we feel her journey from confidence to crisis to acceptance, giving one of science fiction's most emotionally complex performances. Daryl Hannah as Pris. When Daryl Hannah stepped into the role of Pris, the basic pleasure model replicant, she was just 22 years old and relatively unknown. Now at 64, Hannah has built an impressive career spanning blockbusters, independent films, and environmental activism. As Pris, Hannah gave us one of cinema's most physically transformative performances. With her raccoon eye makeup, wild shock of blonde hair, and acrobatic fighting style, she created a character both seductive and terrifying. Remember that scene where she infiltrates J.F. Sebastian's apartment, performing a bizarre backward walk? Or when she nearly kills Deckard with those powerful thighs? Hannah's ballet and gymnastics background brought an inhuman quality to Pris's movements, making her truly feel like something not quite human. Before Blade Runner, Hannah had only a few credits, including the horror film The Fury. After her breakthrough, she became a major star with Splash Steel Magnolia's Roxanne, and later found a career resurgence with Kill Bill and roles in Netflix's Sense8. Throughout her career, Hannah has brought the same physical commitment to her roles that made Pris so memorable. What made her performance so special was how she embodied the strange, childlike, yet deadly nature of her character. Pris is both toy and weapon, simultaneously vulnerable and lethal. Hannah's physical performance helped establish Blade Runner's unique vision of replicants as beings whose humanity emerges in unexpected and sometimes unsettling ways. Has anyone forgotten that death scene with the convulsing body and piercing screams? Pure nightmare fuel delivered with artistic precision. Edward James Olmos as Gaff. At 35 years old, Edward James Olmos created one of cinema's most enigmatic supporting characters with just a handful of scenes and about 7 lines of dialogue. Now 77, Olmos has become one of Hollywood's most respected character actors with a career spanning 5 decades. As Gaff, the mysterious police officer who shadows Deckard Olmos, created an unforgettable presence through subtle gestures and cryptic origami figures. Speaking a street language combining Spanish, Hungarian, German, and Japanese, Gaff represents the multicultural future, while his handcrafted origami creations stand in contrast to the manufactured world around him. That final unicorn origami left at Deckard's apartment, still fueling debates about Deckard's true nature decades later. Before Blade Runner, Olmos had gained recognition for his Tony-nominated role in Zoot Suit. Afterward, he found acclaim on television as Lieutenant Castillo in Miami Vice and Admiral Adama in Battlestar Galactica, while directing and starring in films like American Me and Selena. He even returned to the Blade Runner universe in 2049, briefly reprising his role as Gaff. What made Olmos' performance so impactful was how much storytelling he accomplished with minimal screen time. His origami creations became perfect symbols in a film about artificial beings. His chicken suggesting cowardice, his unicorn hinting at implanted memories. Olmos created more subtext in a few minutes than many actors achieve in entire films, making Gaff the perfect mysterious observer in this noir-inspired world. Joanna Cassidy as Jorah. At 37 years old, Joanna Cassidy brought exotic dancer and assassination replicant Jorah Salomi to life in one of Blade Runner's most memorable sequences. Now 79, Cassidy has enjoyed a varied career across film and television, spanning over 5 decades. As Jorah Cassidy created an unforgettable character in just a few minutes of screen time. Her exotic dancer with a snake perfectly embodied the film's blend of sensuality and danger. Jorah's death scene, running through plate glass windows in slow motion while blood mingles with rain, remains one of cinema's most visually striking moments. Cassidy performed with an artificial snake named Darling, creating an unsettling mirror to her own artificial nature as a replicant. Before Blade Runner, Cassidy had established herself in films like The Late Show and Under Fire. After her breakthrough, she secured memorable roles in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and television series like 6 Feet Under. She even returned for Blade Runner 2049, where her likeness was digitally recreated for a brief scene. What made Cassidy's performance so significant was how quickly she established Jorah's dangerous competence and survival instinct. In her brief fight with Deckard, we feel the desperate struggle of a being fighting for her existence. Cassidy conveyed both the exotic otherness replicants represent in this world and their fundamentally human desire to live, bringing depth to what could have been simply a visually striking action sequence. Has any death scene in science fiction been more beautiful or tragic? Brian James as Leon Kowalski. At 37 years old, character actor Brian James brought combat replicant Leon Kowalski to terrifying life in Blade Runner's opening scenes. James passed away in 1999 at just 54, but left behind an impressive legacy of over 150 film and television roles. As Leon, James perfectly captured the childlike rage and confusion of a being with superhuman strength but limited emotional development. His opening Voight camp test scene established the film's tension between humans and replicants as his growing anxiety explodes into violence. Remember that chilling line delivered with perfect menace? Nothing is worse than having an itch you can never scratch. James gave Leon an uncomfortable intensity, making him the physical threat that drives the film's early action. Before Blade Runner, James had appeared in Southern Comfort and smaller roles across television. After his breakthrough, he became one of Hollywood's most recognizable character actors, specializing in villains and tough guys in films like The Fifth Element, 48 Cheers, Another 48 Hours, and Tango and Cash. His distinctive voice and imposing presence made him instantly recognizable across genres. M. Emmett Walsh as Bryant. At 47 years old, veteran character actor M. Emmett Walsh brought Deckard's alcoholic racist boss Bryant to life with memorable gruffness. Walsh passed away earlier this year at 89 after a remarkable career spanning over 200 film and television appearances. As Bryant, Walsh created the perfect embodiment of the system's casual dehumanization of replicants. His constant references to them as skin jobs establishes the world's prejudice, while his manipulation of Deckard represents the corrupt authority pushing our protagonist back into a role he'd rather leave behind. Remember him lounging in his messy office, drinking from a bottle while assigning death sentences? Walsh conveyed volumes about this dystopian society through Bryant's casual cruelty. Before Blade Runner, Walsh had already established himself in films like Straight Time and Ordinary People. Afterward, he continued his prolific career with standout roles in Blood Simple Raising Arizona Romeo, plus Juliet, and dozens of other films and television shows, working consistently until shortly before his death. The cast of Blade Runner created characters that continue to haunt our imaginations decades after the film's release. From Ford's conflicted detective to Hauer's philosophical replicant, they brought depth and humanity to a story questioning the very nature of being human. What makes these performances endure is how they collectively created a world both futuristic and timeless, asking questions that become only more relevant as technology advances. Which Blade Runner character made the strongest impression on you? Whose journey between human and machine touched you most deeply? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look back at one of sci-fi's most influential films, don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie retrospectives. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a video about your favorite film classics.